is the one and only Kyle Brandt from Good Morning Football. And we're short on sleep, Kyle. We're
Yep.
a little hungover from whatever the heck that was last night. Yes, weather played a factor, but you tell me, consistency and the lack of it was the difference in this game between the two sides.
Tough loss, tough night, tough morning. That was the stuff that nightmares are made of. I mean, it really was. Let's accept some things first before we start to adjust and start the healing. This idea that in 2021, a Bill Belichick team without Tom Brady is coming into Buffalo in prime time and just coming in and doing what they want. That's really frustrating. That's terrifying nightmare fuel. But, I've had a few hours to think about this because we started 7 a.m. this morning. We talked about the show off the top, and now I'm coming down a little bit. You know that moment when you have the hangover where you think it starts to clear a little bit and you start to get a little bit of clarity after a few hours? I'm there. That was not the AFC title game. That was not a playoff game. And, I was saying this morning, as a coach or as a player, what's frustrating about that loss is, like, what do you point to fix? Like, what is our solution to this problem? It's not like, well, our game plan was off or we just made a couple of huge mistakes. It was just the Bills are tough. The Patriots were tougher. However, I don't think the season is over. I don't think that the next time they play the Patriots or the next time they play anybody, it will be in conditions that dictate 46 runs. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that was a really tough night. You can go one of two ways. The season's over. It's done. The Patriots own us again. We don't have it. Or, I don't know. I saw the Bucs hit a real low point last year, too, on their way to a Super Bowl. They still accomplished all their goals after being embarrassed on national television by the Bears. It happened. You can look it up. I'm not saying it wasn't a tough night, but I'm getting to that point now where I'm turning the corner and saying that's for wimps sitting here crying hours about it and weeks out. There's still a lot of football to be played.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well that the Bills come in, and it's very typical of what we've seen and that's why it's so frustrating too. We've seen this so many times. The Bills fumble a ball away going in on the 30-yard line. They drop passes. They miss a field goal late that gives them a chance for an easy field goal to win it. There's drop passes. There's thing after thing after thing that gets listed. And the Patriots had one bad thing. The punt blew around in the wind, hit the guy's helmet. That's the only bad thing that happened to them all night. So you kind of look like, why are they the only team in the league that when you finish a game like that, you can't point to anything that they did wrong? It really is a testament to the way they run their organization and how well you have to play to beat them. And the Bills just didn't do that last night.
No. And the question is, can they do it again? And I know they'll get a shot. Look, guys, we talked about this all season, and we played it this morning too. The Micah and the Poyer sound after the game about were you embarrassed, and it got really contentious, and they walked out and words were exchanged. To me, that was about more than that game last night. That was about the Colts game, that was about the Titans game, and that's about all these things that they've heard and that we've talked about, frankly, I think fairly and objectively, that these really physical running games are scary for the Bills. And I don't think the players are scared. I'm scared watching them. Those guys are tough. Those guys are proud. But my God, it's been some tough days against the run. And, this idea that you're supposed to embody your city or, adapt to the conditions around you. We had Kurt Warner on this morning, and we're joking about, do the Bills need a dome? Because they got a great quarterback and some great receivers, and, the whole running game thing that they're supposed to be doing there in Western New York isn't really happening. So it's very frustrating to watch because I just don't know if that's how they're made up as a team. And if you did put this Bills team in a dome, that they might be better, but a dome's not coming.
Right. And that leads me to my next question, Kyle, which is there a potential philosophical disconnect here? Because we hear Coach McDermott last night when he's asked about the run game saying that identity is forged in training camp. We worked on it then. He was asked if it can be fixed now. He says, we're going to try our darndest, but it's very hard to do that. Is it time to just lay that down and put it on the side and say, Josh Allen's our best player. He's our best way to reclaim success in some way, shape, or form with some measure of consistency. We got to go back to what we were in 2020, which is the hell with running the ball. We got to throw it all over the yard if we want to win week to week.
I think what I like about that, Brownie, is that I think it can work. What I don't like is I don't think you can win the whole thing like that. And this Bills team is not in the business of winning a divisional round game or a wild card game. That's a bitter disappointment if they do that. So That's the problem here. It's these suffocating stakes and expectations about anything other than a trip to the Super Bowl and winning it is this huge disappointment. Yeah, maybe they say, screw it. Enough of this. We're not going to do the Breida thing. We're not going to do Singletary and Moss. We're going to throw 60 times a game because Josh is that good. I don't know. Are they winning in the playoffs like that? Because they're probably going to see the same team they saw last night. It's probably going to be in Foxborough. It's probably going to be cold. Like, they're going to have to address this thing, or they're going to have to die by it. There is no, I just don't think it's either in their fabric or in the realm of probability or possibility that they win just to becoming the greatest show on turf, because they're not on turf. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I just wonder. I just wonder if they're even going to be able to get to the playoffs the way they're playing like this, because you may have to go back to that just to get in, is what I'm thinking at this point. That's the scary thing.
I think, look, here's the, so what, I got the Bucks next week, right?
Yeah, on the road.
You know what? I mean, they're going to slam Fournette up the middle, slam him. And they're going to bring in Ronald Jones. Like, those guys can run. For all the Brady and all the receivers they have, like, as you've been watching the last month or so of the Bucks, like, Fournette is becoming a star, and they're running the hell out of him. So it's like, I guess it's a good opportunity to correct it. And I thought it was interesting that Micah said after the game to the reporter who he took exception with, like, I'm going to remember that, and I'm going to focus on this. And okay, great. That sounds great. Be motivated, be angry. But my God, can we make some tackles closer to the line of scrimmage? I'm not ready to say they're gonna miss the playoffs yet, but are they gonna win this game next week? Like, if you were a gambling man, are you betting on the Buffalo Bills to win this game? It's probably not. And I'm not gonna blow smoke. I never do that on this show. I never do that on Twitter. And Bills fans get pissed off. Oh, you're jumping off the bandwagon. Guys, are you watching the games? Like, they're not that good right now. So the last thing I'm gonna do is BS you and say you're fine. Things aren't fine. Let's try to fix them.
Yeah, and this seems to be a team, particularly in this with the state of where their defense is. It's, statistically you can say what you want. Yeah, they gave up 14 points and all that, so not giving up too many points. But the simple fact of the matter is, this is a team that has to hit on all cylinders. Last night, if the Bills score another touchdown or make the field goal at the end, they got a chance to win it. Or they force the New England Patriots. Listen, you can't run it every down, or you're not going to keep up with us. So it's as much about the offense scoring points and keeping it out of the, keeping the Patriots a little bit desperate to stay in it than they were last night at any point. After you break off one big run, and all of a sudden now your offense has to catch up. They do it, but they can't take the lead. So this is a team where, as good as they are, they got to be hitting better everywhere to win games like they did last night. They haven't won really any one-score games all year that I can think of.
No, they're 0-4, and they've lost those 4 games by 17 points. And what does it come back to? Consistency. You're not going to be consistent. You're not going to win the tight ones. And 75% of the games in this league are decided by 7 points or less. So it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, so the thing is, Kyle, how, if they do play consistently on one side of the ball, what do you think this team looks like at its best?
At its best, they look like they look on Thanksgiving. It's a show. But look, that game was in a dome. Ironically, It looked great. They're going around at 72 degrees, going up and down the field. They're not good enough right now to beat great teams unless they play almost perfect. And like, that Breida fumble was not only bad, it was really strange. And we had this advantage of, we're watching Peyton and Eli talk about it, and they didn't even know what he was doing. And it was this weird thing where on your first day of Pop Warner football, they teach you how to take a handoff with the forearms up. And for some reason, Breida grabbed for it, and it was just a bad fumble. And you're like, well, they can't do that against this team. The Patriots are too good right now. And they can't make that mistake. The unbeatability, if you want to call it, invincibility that they had a year ago is nowhere in the building right now. And it's almost like they have to play perfect to beat some of these big dogs. And that's too much.
Yeah.
Where do you the AFC race, as you know, is a schmozzle in the conference, and the Bills now have 5 conference losses. I don't need to tell you that the second tiebreaker after overall record and head-to-head is conference record. They only have 2 more conference games, Kyle. The best they can do in the conference is 7-5. And I realize a lot of these other AFC teams in the hunt or in the playoff picture are going to be playing each other. I know the AFC North plays each other. The AFC West teams are going to be playing each other, and they're going to be knocking each other off and, ruining some conference records there. But this is not a good place to be standing at 5-5 in the conference when you're already looking up at the division leader. So if the division is out of the picture and you're just going strictly on wild card, I realize there's 3 now. 3 berths to be had, but the tiebreaker situation is not looking good right now with little opportunity left to improve it.
It's not, and they likely won't. If I'm looking for optimism here, I'm looking at if there was ever a year to get in as a wild card and make the run in the AFC, this looks like a great year because there's so many middling teams that are going to be in. There's so many teams that are going to be first timers, happy to be there. The Bengals types, who knows, maybe the Chargers types. I don't trust those teams at all. Even after last night, I still trust Buffalo more than a lot of those teams. It's just going to come down to your old friends, New England and Kansas City. But this is not one of these years where there's a 14-2 Tom Brady team or something like that is just the proverbial juggernaut. Yeah. I'm trying to be positive as much as I can this morning. Yeah, I really am. I think I need an MRI on my lower back and how I'm bending over to try to be positive. I just can't sit here and say they suck. They don't. They have really good players in this team. They just don't have a really good record right now. Damn it.
I say this during the show. I mean, it's a soul-crushing loss, but it's not season-crushing. But it's a crusher for Bills fans. There's a lot wrapped up in this, a lot more that outside the lines, and it's interesting to hear, how people react to it. But this is one of those years too, where at this point the Bills hold the 7th playoff spot, but it's musical chairs. There's 3 8-4 teams and 3 7-5 teams and a 7-6 team. It's musical chairs, and you know how it is. There's always one less chair than there is teams that feel like they deserve to be in. And the Bills, like today, and another week, could be the team standing there who's a playoff caliber team in a lot of respects, in a lot of ways, but gets left out. And that's really the fear, and it starts to hang out in the back of your mind. What do you think how many teams you think there will be at the end of this? And we see a ton of them now. We've been talking about it all year. What's it going to look like at the last week when somebody gets shut out?
It's rough. And musical chairs is a low-key violent game. You got to hit people off that shit. I don't even know, guys, do they even play musical chairs in school anymore? It might be one of those things
there's no way they do that.
Not encouraged.
There's no way.
It's like Red Rover, come on over is just clotheslining kids. And the musical chair thing is violent. So I think it actually is really appropriate, Steve, for this year's AFC, because someone's going to think they have the chair and they're going to get blasted into next week by someone nuts. Look, I'm still, and I'm on record many places. I wanted to be here too. I'm never counting out the Pittsburgh Steelers ever.
Right.
And everybody did it last week. And last week was the Ben Roethlisberger funeral, and it's on to the next thing. And now it's about Burrow and Lamar. No, I will never count them out. I don't care what happens. And the Bills know what the Steelers are capable of. And right now, TJ Watt is probably the best football player in the entire league. So they're going to have a say in this thing. Everyone's going to have a say in it. And I'm thinking about what you were saying about it's soul crushing, but it's not season ending. This Bills team has been so consistent in the media, so resolute in we're not saying anything, business. And I think last night after the game, they finally had enough. And I already talked about the 2 safeties who had just said, screw this, I'm not answering this question. I thought McDermott's answer to the Belichick stuff was really interesting about look, let's not say this is Bill Belichick's masterpiece. I'm putting words in his mouth, but that was the subtext. These guys have been really, really buttoned up with the media. And I think a loss to the Patriots at home, has a tendency to unbutton you. So Look, let's go now. Now we got to play the world champs. And now we got a place they can play the quarterback who tormented us for 20 years. Let's see what the team is made of.
Musical chairs went out with steel jungle gyms and metal slides. So you don't see those on the playground.
Darts.
And lawn darts. Yeah, I missed that game. Come on now.
Yeah.
What was wrong with that? Have a few beers, throw a spear in the air around the yard party. It's fine.
Lob it. It's like a mortar.
They don't even have metal horseshoes anymore. What the hell's wrong with this country? We're getting soft.
Yeah.
I was in the post-game media room, Kyle, sat next to the person who asked the question. And I think, in fairness, it was an overarching season body of work question, like, is this embarrassing? I think Micah, unfortunately, took it as a question directed squarely at the defense. And that's why he and Jordan Poyer are like, dude, we gave up 14 points. We should have, that's a pretty good effort, rushing yards aside. And how many times have we seen New England give up a ton of yards, but then only give up 13 points and win a football game? So it comes back to the offense, and I don't know where they go from here, Kyle, because fixing it's not going to be easy this late in the season. You are what you are. And so the roadmap is murky. And so I don't know what you do with the last 5 games, especially when only 2 of them are AFC games. this is the last one that I've got for you, but you want to be the best crystal ball guy you can be, and tell me, truthfully. I know you still believe in this team, but
I do.
I don't see how they're more than a wild card team right now.
I don't see so. I don't think so either. But I guess my point is, so be a wild card team. All right. Like no one's goal was to finish with the best regular season record. Just like I never thought it was that interesting to have Josh Allen win MVP. It's fine if you want to. It's about winning the Super Bowl. And I actually like, in a way, in a roundabout way, that they're not playing, I don't know, the New York Giants next week or some also ran. Like, let's go. If you have, it's like speak now or forever hold your peace. Give me something against Tampa. It's not going to be snowing. It's not going to be 40-mile-an-hour winds. It's just going to be you guys and them in what was supposed to be like some sort of Super Bowl preview. So show it to me. Let's see what you got. And then maybe if they get clocked next week, maybe it's time to start changing the conversation. But I'm not doing it yet. Right. They were my Super Bowl pick to begin. I still think they have that ability. It's just been a while.
All right, so we need a prediction from him. What do we
from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game? Wow, it's way early. Go ahead.
All right, I'm thinking about this. You guys know that I've said this for a couple of years. My favorite Buffalo Bill is Dawson Knox, who did not have one for his reel last night. I think Dawson Knox is going to catch a game-winning touchdown pass in the back of the end zone, and they're going to win 21-20 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Woo! Okay.
Wow.
To Knox for the win in the final minute, and we are cruising, and we are all right, and we are headed home on the final stretch.
And if they do that, for 9 straight weeks, they will have exchanged wins for losses, 9 weeks in a row.
There you go, Brownie. That's it.
I mean, they're due. They're due. Based on the last 2 months, they're due. So, Kyle,
the target's changed now. Instead of now we're just trying to keep the that'll be the most consistently inconsistent season in a long time.
Fine, Steve. It's not. It's soul crushing. It's not season ending. There's a game next week, and they're going to win it 21-20.
All right, Kyle, thanks as always for the time. We appreciate it. We'll catch up with you next week.
Next week, let's have a party. Let's be happy. Enough of this.
And maybe we'll get a Ross Tucker impersonation next week, too. We'll see if that can happen also.
Yes, let's do that. All right. See ya.